All right, this is video 717, and we're going to look at answering questions directly from equations. Now, here's a tip. If I was doing this and I was writing a test or something like this, even if it said what is, well, maybe not the concavity, but with some of these, I'd probably graph it anyway, right? Or do the question and then graph it afterwards if you got some extra time before the test is over, and just double check that everything fits, right? So I'm a visual learner, so I always want to draw a picture. But here's some things that you can do that, you know, if you're just practicing, it doesn't necessarily require you to do a pull out graph. All right, concavity, maximum, minimums, those are all kind of go together. If A is positive, okay, as soon as I see positive, I think that it's a smiley face, because smiley face people are more positive. And the parabola opens up and has a minimum. Simple. Okay. If A is a negative, then the parabola opens. Okay, A is negative. It's a frowny face. And opens down and has max. Okay, so the value of the maximum minimum, just use y equals. Okay, so if you know the vertex, then that's as high or as low as it's going to get. So you just do y is equal to q, the y coordinate of the vertex. Like I said. Okay, so equation of the axis symmetry, x equals, look for similarities, it's going to be p. Right, because not only does, here, I draw one over here. There's my curve. Oh. There we go. Okay, a little more symmetrical. There's my vertex. Well, there's going to be your max. And then there's going to be the equation. That looks awful. These are better. Axis symmetry. And that part always goes like that, whether it's a max or a minimum, but the axis always goes to the middle. The domain, you have that memorized yet? We haven't done that in a while. D is equal to, set notation brackets. So domain always goes with X. And for years, I could never remember which was which. And then somebody pointed out it's alphabetical. Domain comes before range and X comes before Y. And I'm like, mind blown with something that incredibly simple. And why didn't my teachers tell me that when I was in high school? Such that X is an element of real numbers. And that is the same for every single parabola that we do. And that means any number that you want, if you were to do, let's do it this way. All right, so this is the super simplest parabola I can make. Y is equal to x squared. You know what? You can put 1 in there and go y is equal to 1 squared. Y is equals 1. So that is a natural number. What do we add when we do whole numbers? 0, right? So 0. Y is equal to 0 squared, which will be 0. So this is my natural number, works. This is my whole number. What's the next round? Integers, right? So integers, so we use -1. So y is equal to -1 squared. Now, careful. -1 times -1. Yes, it's +1. Oops, 0, 1. So integers work. What will be next? Rational numbers. So let's go with 0.5. Because rational numbers include fractions and terminating decimals. I have to think there for a second. So y is equal to 0.5 squared, 0.25. In other words, any number I pick, I'm not going to get into irrational numbers. We don't do enough work with them, but you could put pi in there and you could work it out. Okay, any number I put, it always works, and I'm always going to get a y. And you can see here, I've got a 1 and a 0 and a 1. This is actually where the minimum is going to be. We're starting to get repeats. Anyway, it's terrible to graph it this way. The staircase method is so much better. All right, now let's look at range. And range depends on the value of A and the vertex. And if A is positive again, here's my handy dandy little trick that I may not remember to say in class. So by watching the video, doing lecture review, you get a little extra knowledge. It's always great. I think it's great to smile. It's great to be a smiley face. That reminds me, I want to use my greater than sign. And if you're negative, it's the less than sign. We should all work on being negative, less. I don't know. It's goofy, but it helps me remember. So now let's take this information and apply it to these two equations. And I would challenge you. How about you turn off the video? Okay, I'm going to trust you did. You turned it off, you did the questions, you know the drill by now. Concavity. Well, A is equal to minus 2. So as soon as I know that, my concavity is going to be like this. So opens down, which means it's got a maximum. Let's do this one up here. There's my A value, it's positive. So that's a smiley face. So it opens up and I have a minimum. Now the value of my maximum has to do with my vertex. So my vertex on this one is minus 4 and minus 5. Now my value of my maximum, how high did it go, is going to be y is equal to minus 5. Now on this one, you're going to have to do a little work, because to get our vertex, we're going to do some work here. So A is equal to 5, B is equal to minus 10, and C is equal to 12. So to get my P, my first one, is minus B over 2A. You should be bored of this by now. P is equal to minus 10 over 2 times 5. I should point out, these don't always have to work out to whole numbers. I just kind of make it that way so it's a little easier for us to do. There's the real truth. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it into there. I'm going to do, I have to move this again. Because I want to find the Q value. I want the second letter, or sorry, the second number in our vertex. So I'm going to take this and plug it in here. So we got y is equal to 5 times 1 minus 10 plus 12. Y is equal to 5 minus 10 plus 12. Y is equal to 7. All right, so 1 comma 7. We know our vertex, so y is equal to 7. That is going to be how low it goes. Now the axis of symmetry is always going to be x equals. And you just look there, because the axis of symmetry always goes through the vertex. So minus 4, x is equal to 1. Domain, yeah, no brainer. Domain such that x is an element of real numbers. We do a lot of this in your parabolas come back in, I don't remember what section of Math 30, but it's there. I think it's getting near the end. And we do a whole bunch on graphing, and we look at linear equations, which you know from chapter 6, or unit 6, We'll look at parabolas, which you know from this one, and we'll look at cubics, and actually some more after that. But basically, those are the three main ones that we do. Oh, and also horizontal and vertical ones. So when you get to Math 30, out of that like 4 graphs that you really have to know well, you already know 3. That's what Math 20 is cool. All right, I digress. So range is equal to y such that y, I'm going to leave a blank, y-er. I do it all the time. I do it like that because I can do that much is the same all the time. So I can put that down. Now I have to stop and think. So this one was down. So that means I need a less than sign. And then you just look to see what your vertex was, -5. I just want to double check if it's negative. Yeah, it's a less than sign. So when it's positive, it's greater than sign or equal to, and we just grab again the y value there. No, y is less than or equal to y. Of course it is. How about 7? And there we go. If you were doing the assignment like this, and okay, if I was doing it, I would do all this work, do this practice, and then you know what? I would either graph them or I would start up Desmos, that beautiful graphing equation or graphing online graphing calculator, and I would check them and I would double check that everything is right. You could, of course, graph and then on Desmos and then do this. But then if you're under stress and you're depending on that, you need to learn to do it this way too. Right? The more you learn, the better it's going to be. And practice makes exactly permanent.